Hello, my name is Sheila Errett, and I'm an infant and early childhood mental health consultant at Children's Resource Center. Today, we'll be talking about teaching kids about personal safety boundaries and the skills that they can use to help um, protect these boundaries, and what we as adults can do if a child reports the boundaries being violated. Just a disclaimer before we begin, we will be talking about statistics and situations of childhood sexual abuse. It's not an easy topic to talk about, but it's one that does need to be shared. We want to empower the kids that we work with the skills they need to help protect themselves should they ever experience a situation that could become abusive. We want to help spare them from the pain that so many have had to endure. To start with, we want to educate ourselves about the statistics around childhood sexual abuse because there's so much pain and even stigma around abuse. It can be easier to just not talk about it and push it aside and act like it doesn't exist. It's much um, easier to think about kids as innocent and just getting to play, learn, and develop without having to think of somebody violating them in this way. But the fact of the matter is, 1 in 10 children in the United States before the age of 18 will experience sexual abuse. That's a staggering number. And girls are more likely than boys, but boys aren't exempt. Um, Roughly speaking, it's about 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys will experience childhood sexual abuse. And there's a myth out there that it's stranger danger. It's people that the children don't know that they need to be afraid of, but that's simply not the case. In 90% of the cases reported on childhood sexual abuse, the children knew their abuser. This maybe was a family member, a family friend, or a teacher, a coach, um, a clergyman, somebody already in their life, someone that they had some sort of trust built with them. So it's all the more important because it's people close to the children that we teach them skills to be aware um, and to know what to do and what to say and get help should they find themselves in those situations. Um, it's also not just adults. We may think that we just need to protect kids from adults, but in reality, it's 40% of the cases were perpetrated by older children or teens in that child's life. And these are just the statistics that we know about. Many cases of childhood sexual abuse, in fact, the majority, go unreported. And there are many reasons for this. Children may fear um, what would happen if they tell. Um, Abusers often threaten that if they tell, certain things will happen. Um, they might fear no one will believe them, and they might think it's their fault. There are so many things surrounding that we just don't know the full extent. Um, but we may fear too that if we start telling kids about childhood sexual abuse and give them some vocabulary, that we then will start getting false reports, that kids will start talking about things that really weren't inappropriate, but they're just reporting because they know about this information now. That's simply not the case. False reports are rare. So if a child is coming to you and saying that something's going on, it's fairly likely happening, and we need to take the steps as caregivers in that child's life to get them help and report to the appropriate authorities. So this information is heavy, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to know that so many people have had to experience this. But what do we do? How do we help prevent this? The first thing we can do is help um, establish policies within our agencies to protect the adults and the children that we care for. One such policy is making sure that one-on-one time behind closed doors doesn't occur. Most situations of childhood sexual abuse are on one-on-one situations in a setting familiar to that child, whether it be their home or the abuser's home or whatnot. So if we can limit one-on-one time that other people aren't around and aren't able to see, then we can help prevent those situations and help take the first steps to help protect the children that we care for. The next thing we can do is teach body safety skills along with any other general safety skill. I mean, we teach about fire safety, we teach about tornado safety, we do drills to help prepare us should we ever have to experience those. We teach kids stop, drop, and roll. I hope a child never has to use that. That would be so scary if they did. But nonetheless, they have those skills. Why not body safety? We don't generally talk about this, but we can incorporate it right along with those other safety skills as well. Other things we can do is we can help set limits around our bodies within the classroom. So young children are curious and they're learning new skills and discovering that they can do things themselves, such as take off their clothes, right? Um, so it's not uncommon for children to take off clothes in the classroom. We want to set appropriate limits and tell them in a positive way, such as we keep our clothes on in the classroom. It's telling a children what they can do, but we're setting that limit. We have to keep our clothes on in the classroom. It's not appropriate to show parts of our body to everyone else in the classroom. Another situation you may run into is children play out what they see in life, and that's how they learn and engage and they reenact what they see. So they go to the doctor, right? And they get checkups, and the doctor might have to touch private body parts or reach under the shirt to touch with a stethoscope. So they might reenact that in the classroom while playing house or doctor. We just want to set limits around those things and tell them what they can play, but those would not be appropriate things to play in the classroom or with their peers. Along with this, we want to teach them about times that they're going to need help from an adult, and an adult may need to touch private body parts, but it's to keep them healthy. A good rule to teach young children is no one to touch your private body parts except to keep you healthy. And some of those times will be if you're working with toddlers or young preschoolers, changing diapers or cleaning up after they go to the bathroom or changing clothes and maybe they got wet or they had an accident, things like that. And you can straight up tell them, um, I am doing this to keep you healthy. I'm helping you clean here to keep you healthy and clean. But you're going to get older and you're going to do these things on your own. So that's telling them that there's a limit and there's a reason that you're doing this and that it's a special part of the body, but it's not going to continue. You're not going to always have an adult helping you with this. The next thing we can do is we can teach children assertive communication skills and that they have a right to their body and they have a right to say what they do and do not like as far as touches when it comes to their body. Often as adults, we'll tell a child, um, come go over and give me a hug, give me a kiss for hellos and goodbyes. That would put pressure on a child to engage in an action that they're not comfortable with. They might not like the hug. They might not like kisses. And adults may worry that they are going to come off disrespectful to adults in their life if they um, don't accept a hug or a kiss. So one thing we could do to help us children establish these boundaries but not come off as rude or disrespectful is providing another option. So we can teach them, okay, you don't want to hug. How about a fist bump? Pinky shake. There's 9 listed there. So you can help establish this in the classroom too. Daily, a child gets to decide how they want to be greeted when they come in and how they want to exit the classroom as well. This not only helps a child to um, feel recognized and acknowledged and build connection when they first come into the classroom, but it also helps them decide and choose what other people can interact with their body and what kind of touches they are okay with and appropriate for them. So, one other thing we can do is we can talk about safe surprises versus unsafe secrets. So, we can talk about surprises being something that someone else will look forward and will be excited about when they find out about it. And then the people that are keeping that surprise are excited to give, right? So, a birthday present. We don't want to tell about a birthday present because we don't want to ruin that surprise, right? Or we don't want to tell about a surprise party coming up because we want that person to be excited when everybody's there. But secrets, we can talk about secrets being often they're things that are make us feel icky inside or heavy. It's heavy to carry. And we don't keep those. We tell people, and we want to keep that line of communication open with kids. Reason being that perpetrators often tell children to keep secrets about their actions. They don't want to get in trouble, of course, and so they tell children not to tell, and there's often threats associated with that. So we want to keep general rules with kids that we don't tell secrets. And as adult caregivers, we want to say that we can never keep secrets because you never know when a child comes up to you and says, "Can you keep this secret?" It could be something innocent as far as um, something they like or they like somebody else or something like that. But it could also be something more serious that as a mandated reporter, you can't keep secret. So you don't want to have to tell a child after you said, yes, I can keep a secret that you actually can't because of the nature of what they're telling you. There are many children's books that can help teach these lessons to kids. These are two books that I really like. They don't go into a lot of detail about private body parts. They just teach general um, assertiveness skills and that bodies are special and that children have the right to say no to touches. And like the one on the right, she talks about, well, I say no. And if they don't listen, I walk away my body, and I decide. So, just some teaching kids about assertiveness and that their bodies are special and that they can get help from adults too if they don't like a touch and people are not listening to them. At CRC, we also offer a program for preschoolers. It's called the Early Learning Child Protection Program, and the curriculum is from Second Step. So it's an evidence-based practice, and we provide that with our partnering agencies over a 4-day period, 30-minute sessions for the preschoolers with puppets and stories and a video as well to teach kids about that. We ask for parent permission because we do in this lesson teach children the proper names for private body parts and along that nature. So we do ask for parent permission and we inform parents of what we're talking about. But this is another option for teaching young children about body safety. If you want more information, you can reach out to CRC. Our number is listed there. It is also important to know the difference between appropriate sexual behavior and about sexual development and what may be red flags because as a caregiver in a child's life, you might be the one that they come to, or you might be the one to start seeing some warning signs and can be that person to intervene and help that child so the abuse can stop if there's something going on. So, some typical sexual behaviors that you'll see in young kids are um, they're learning about their bodies and they might want to show others. If you're talking about toddlers, preschoolers, it might happen. And so, again, we just set limits for those kids and talk about if their bodies are special and we want to keep those private. Um, you might see them, they're learning to take off clothes. So, again, wanting to be naked and not having to wear clothes in the classroom. But again, we just want to set those boundaries. You may see young children touching private body parts and getting pleasure from this. We just really want to redirect kids and um, talk about appropriateness and in the classroom and redirect them to something else. So that in and of itself won't necessarily um, indicate that they've had abuse or um, really bring up any warning signs. And I found this information from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. So if you want to learn more about what is this appropriate, is it not, should I anticipate this from a child of this age, you can look at their website for more details. Some warning signs that you may see or a child who has met that developmental milestone and suddenly is regressing. So they were potty trained and now they're having accidents regularly, or they started sucking their thumb regularly. Other pretty noticeable warning signs would be if a child is engaging in adult sexual acts or wanting to engage in play and model those because they mimic what they see, right? And so while some playing house and doctor, you might run into some of that pretty clear line of like, that's not typical of what a 4 or 5-year-old might know about. Wonder how did you know about that? There's also some physical signs you may see with pain and discoloration and bleeding. And if they especially if they've been to the doctor and there's nothing physically that can attribute to these things, um, then that might also be a red flag, particularly with the behavioral. Consider too what's going on in a child's life. Children will regress in behavior, things that they might have developmentally already met if there's major changes in their lives, divorces, moves, things like that. So we may see some of those behaviors because of that. Um, if you would like to learn more information about warning signs, again, and what uh, could be a signal of potential abuse, you can go to Stop It Now. That's where I found this information here. It's another great resource for information about sexual abuse. So, what do you do if a child reports inappropriate touching? As an adult, it's important to remain calm as much as possible. This is hard information to hear, but we want to control ourselves because children mirror what they see in us and our emotions. So, as much as possible, remain calm while they tell, because it's hard for them. It's brave for them to tell you, and they need our support. We want to ask open-ended questions rather than closed-end. Reason being, we don't want to add any details. So we want to keep the things open, like, could you tell me more? What else happened? But not something along the lines of, did so and so touch you here? That would be too much detail. And so keep it just general. You want to get the general information so that you have enough to report. And that too, that you're understanding clearly. Um, you know, if someone says so and so touched my private part, but all it was, they were walking by each other in the hallway and they got bumped. You want to be able to you have enough information to determine that it wasn't something serious or versus what is something serious. Reassure the child that it's not their fault. If there's situations of childhood sexual abuse, children often blame themselves and feel guilty for what is going on. They may think that it's that they did something wrong and that it's therefore they deserve this, but that's not the case at all. We want to let children know that we believe them. They might fear that they're not going to be heard and uh, that what they're saying isn't going to be believed. So we want to reassure them that you believe them and that you're going to get them appropriate help as much as you can. You also want to get support for yourself. This is hard information to hear, so you want to notify your supervisor and making sure that you're following your company protocol as well. Um, and then we also want to report to local authorities, making sure that they get the information so that they can take the next steps and investigate. It's not your job to decide if something actually happened or didn't happen. Um, they can do that, and that's their job. There's trained investigators. So here's a number that you can call in Ohio that'll link you to the resources in your county. And lastly, remember that by reporting, you not only are helping that child, but you don't know how many people that abuser is potentially infecting as well. So you could be helping many more children beyond that child. Keep in mind, too, this information is hard to hear, and we don't want to think about children being abused, but prevention is possible. That's why we teach these skills, and so that the kids can have a voice and be able to stand up against perpetrators. Perpetrators often look for unsuspecting children that are just that don't have the um, ability to stand up for themselves, that are trusting. And while we don't want to scare kids, we do want to be able for them to be able to say no and to be able to get help if needed, and that they know that it's not okay to be touched in their private body parts. Here are some great resources. Darkness to Light, Early Open Often. They have some great resources for parents and teachers as well. Fight Child Abuse has some videos that are age appropriate. and animated for young children. I hope you found this helpful. If you would like more information or to know about the Early Learning Child Protection Program, feel free to reach out to us at Children's Resource Center. Thanks for watching.